Hello and welcome to among your favorite metal YouTube head. Just kidding, I know you don't get my self-irony here. This time I'm gonna go through a little bit of Steelchaos 2018 and the gig that overlapped with the particular weekend. So that is like a week ago during the day of this filming. But since opinion videos wouldn't be anything without a suitable malt drink, well, let's give this beer a shot, because I just recently got delivered my latest Mikkeller beer mail. We'll go with some brown ale this time. So let's start talking and tasting some beer. Well, metalheads are always about drinking lots of beer, right? So Steelfest 2018 was one of the highlights of this particular fall of 2018, at least when it comes to Finnish extreme metal. Black metal mostly, but not totally, just dedicated to that very topic. But also during the weekend I went to see Hypocrisy, which were warmed up by a German black metal band The Spirit, as well as there was the main band Kataklysm from Canada. They have been like once before, I think, in Finland prior to this one, so obviously for me it was a chance to get to see them, as well as to see the one and only Swedish melodic death metal band that I so much in love with, Hypocrisy. Also, Spirit is worth mentioning because they did quite a nice debut album already 2017, really released this year also by Nuclear Blast. So 3 bands that were interesting to me, unfortunately just overlapping with Steelfest 2018. I don't know, to be honest, where to start from, because there were lots of different topics or subtopics which I should go through. So maybe I just give you the general idea what was going on, and then in kind of chronological order figure out what there is to tell. But first, let's take a sip. Yummy. So, like I said, there was like 2 events on 2 different days. Steelcase being this 2-day event, and well, the others just being a typical weekend gig. Now I went there with my friend to see Hypocrisy and also to see Steelchaos day number 2. But since I'm always full on packed with energy, I wanted to go to see a couple of bands already on Friday early evening to Steelchaos, and to get a little bit of vibe what was going on, because I knew I wasn't gonna see most of the bands anyway. Also, our plans to do some interviews on Friday's Steelchaos were not exactly successful. Let's put it this way, because I don't want to slander any bands. I don't know why, some of the reasons why the bands that I contacted for interview, I had like 6. Only one band turned me down, saying that their schedule problems, Imbel Nazarene. They're totally cool with it. But then there were a couple of bands which just didn't reply me at all about possible interviews on Friday or Saturday. So we ended up doing no Steelchaos interviews on Friday, which is a shame. But you have to respect artists' will and all that stuff, so I really can't complain. But I got to see a couple of first bands there, which were quite nicely. Not to say I'm a big fan of Evil Angel, but this 20th anniversary gig was kind of interesting. One worth thing of notice, and this got me smiling on my face or a little bit of laughing, is that the vocalist kind of totally nailed it. He was basically performing with just, t-shirt on and then some say spiky belt, but this, instead of spiky belt going around his waist, it was basically covering his genital area, and you could basically see the other part of the testicles, just falling out basically through that stuff. So it was kind of very barbaric, very primitive, but at the same time also something like we don't give a damn kind of attitude, which is always something that I kind of enjoy with bands going on stage. They are not there to do apology of any sort. They are there to just, do their show on their own terms and rules and whatnot. So my kudos to go to that band. I also got to see basically full set of Galvanizer, which actually performed really well considering that they are quite new. Playing old school death metal and the very typical HM2 sound or similar, the type of very classic death metal sound, which is I think made most famous from by Swedish death metal bands from the earlier mid 90s. And man, they had some potential. I can now totally understand why they were there, just opening for the evening. So all in all, I get to see very little. There were lots of bands like Berlizer, Marduk, Through Black Dawn, and other stuff which I just missed, which I would have liked to see. I mean, Marduk is always a great live band with great songs and all that stuff. True Black Dawn, then again, also a good band. Had a special Meat Hooks show, and I was told it was one of the better shows during the whole weekend. And I can pretty much understand because I know the guys and they know they deliver a well performed show. And this time they had this kind of based on pictures what I saw, they had this guy kind of in a cross formation, hooded and all that stuff, just with meat hooks, just hooked there from the ceiling, obviously, and it looked cool. Would have been cool to see that. I don't know if it's more a gimmick kind of a thing. That's basically up to any given individual to decide how they are. But in my opinion, I think those kind of things are the reasons, one of the few reasons why you go to see a specific gig, why you go to a festival or whatever gig, to get the kind of a special feeling. Like I've said it before, listen to live, at home by YouTube or live album, whatever. It's just like watching porn. It can be really nice, it can be a little bit boring, but it's just like staring somebody or something through the screen, basically. When you are present, watching live performance, it's like having sex versus watching porn. I know some people won't agree with me, and that's totally fine, but that's how I feel it. I mean, so many times these kind of gigs are kind of a second class when it comes to, sound quality and all that stuff. There might be mistakes, playing the chords and all that stuff. But it's the live atmosphere. It's the energy between the audience and the band. And the whole setup might have some special, it might not, but that doesn't always mean it matters. Which brings me to the next point. I went to see the Spirit, Hypocrisy, Kataklysm gig to a different venue called the Circus, which is like in the middle of Helsinki. And while it's not the best place to have metal gigs, I think it's doing a decent job. And actually met quite a few friends there as well, which is always really nice. The thing is that the Spirit sounds very cool on an album. I mean, it's kind of a very melodic, kind of a 90s vibes black metal. German band though, but it sounds like Swedish black metal band. Dissection Worship or anything that direction. But they were kind of like a little bit boring on stage. I don't know, maybe I had too high expectations, but it wasn't really working for me. I would definitely give those guys another chance live, but so far I get the feeling they are still on the album phase, which is, and again, typical thing for a young band. Doing great album, not so much greatness on stage. Maybe a little bit of lack of practice or experience. I don't know, but the feeling wasn't exactly, full of energy or all that. Not that intense. But things changed so much when Hypocrisy went on stage. And actually, it's one of the gigs which kind of reminded me why I still do live shows. I mean, so often happens that I go to see a show, I go to a festival to see a gig perform, and I'm like, well, they're decent, but why I am here. Like, why I'm not just drinking beer and talking with my friends, because some bands are not just very good playing live. Sometimes it's the sound quality which is just ruining the whole thing, and sometimes it just feels like these guys on stage are just doing their job. They are not performing. They are not delivering the audience the kind of a full blown set. They are not, basically giving more than the album is giving. So it sometimes feel like I'm just staring at some dudes playing their instruments who have zero interest to make this show a worthwhile thing. But Hypocrisy was different breed. I've seen them before, like 10, 12 years ago, and they were magnificent back then. They were magnificent this time. I rarely get goosebumps, if ever, but this time I was really close again getting them, because when the first track started with those synths and all, and I was like blown away. I was like, man, this is so great. Not all the songs by Hypocrisy are that great in my opinion. They have weaker albums like Catch 22, which is something that I would never bother to listen again, basically. But also they have really, really great tracks which are really good also on live. And even some of the weaker tracks got a new whole load of energy when they were played live. So Hypocrisy was once again proving to the very point, that they are really experienced, really much into having this kind of energy with the audience. And only thing which I kind of missed would have been more talk with the audience. And this is a different topic I need to address at some point, like why there isn't this and that when it comes to gigs and stuff. But Hypocrisy was really powerful. They had decent sound, and I haven't seen for years an audience going like this much, like yeah, banging their heads, fists, and whatnot, and also kind of a circle of death kind of a thing going on. They played old tracks, they played newer tracks, and all that stuff. So the only thing I could basically complain is that I didn't get to do the interview I was originally promised by the label person, but there were reasons why they didn't want to do that. So let's hope for the 2019 will be a different thing. There will be a new Hypocrisy album out next year some point, probably summer, so stay tuned for that. But definitely, if you get to see Hypocrisy live, they should be touring like North America soon. So wow. Which also led to the very point that Kataklysm wasn't very good. I mean, they had lots of energy, but due to their ways of, their riffs and song structures and their kind of a hard to grasp kind of a genre, this technical yet melodic, somewhat experimenting death metal type is not very easy to get in. And to be honest, doing that live doesn't help much. Now, while it was clear that they were kind of a main band of the evening, it was clear also that the audience didn't agree with that. Hypocrisy is a big thing in Finland, and it was shown. Like, big part of the audience already left by the time Hypocrisy had finished, and Kataklysm had to play to a smaller audience. I mean, they had energy, live, but to be honest, they were not that good. Maybe because of the sound, maybe because of their own songs and all that stuff. I mean, these guys have great attitude. They've been there very, very, very long, almost 30 years by now. But when there is better band on stage, I'm sorry I have to say this, but when there's better band on stage, you're just gonna lose the contest. Now, after Kataklysm, I had this feeling that I should go back to Steelchaos, to Kataklysm and Arcturus, which was playing later than Kataklysm. But by the time I got like surprise drunk, people pouring some free drinks on me. Well, not on me, but for me, buying those drinks, and I got a little bit of tipsy, so I didn't feel like walking. So I cancelled Arcturus on my behalf. I've never been a big fan. I wanted to do interview with the guys and wanted to see this glimpse to this kind of anniversary gig. But, well, I got a little tipsy, didn't feel like walking. So I don't know what I missed. Some people said it was really, really great, but then again, I didn't like the early Arcturus stuff. back in the 80s, sorry, 90s, so I probably wouldn't have liked it anyway. I don't know, I have the benefit of doubt with me, so do whatever you with your will. Now, Saturday was more easier because of just having Steelchaos bands there, and there were an interesting lineup from smaller bands to bigger names such as Impale Nazarene and obviously Primordial being the kind of headliner, but also some bands that were not really interesting to me. Curiously enough, our schedule was kind of fragged up because we actually did have two interviews. Well, the Azakal interview wasn't overlapping with anything because it was so early before basically the doors opened. So it was cool. I can say this much. The Kataklysm interview which we did on Friday, it was more on the verge of, you know, having fun, despite having serious topics, and also a little bit talk about XDO, the side project of Kataklysm guys. But it was something like very warm-hearted, you know, thing. And Asakal was different thing. I mean, it was like very nice to do. You probably see the smile on my face while we were doing it. But it was also because the band was, to be honest, quite drunk already by the time. It is one of those kind of a different type of interviews. So much different than those more serious types. But I hope you will like it. At least it gives you some insight to Finnish black metal mentality. Asakal has been there for so many years, putting so many albums out. It's one of the hardest working bands in Finland when it comes to black metal scene. So definitely, if Finnish black metal scene interests you at all, totally give it a chance and check it out. But what actually took a lot of time, and I cannot say this in any bad way, was that we finally got to agree a primordial interview with the vocalist, Alan, which seemed to be very great guy, real gentleman and all that stuff, but also a guy who has maybe more than me stuff to talk about. So while I'm not exactly known as a person who has very few words and right to the point and all that stuff, well, he's kind of a same breed in a way, in one way or a few ways. We finally agreed to have a talk with him. We almost talked for like 40 minutes. I think it was 36 minutes, the unedited version, and then another about 40 minutes or whatever after the interview. And I can say we talked a lot about say more serious topics. We talked about politics, we talked about of course music, and some phenomena which are, you know, in metal. Lots of topics. It makes no sense if I'm gonna just explain it to you. You're gonna check it out. I think it's one of our better interviews so far. It was really fun to do because some of the time my questions just went like off-road, then we came back and the topics kind of circled around, and when I went back and forth, and kind of a really chaotic conversation, but then again also very good mood, lots of interesting stuff, even for people who are not that much into Primordial. For example, I've never been a fan of the band. I mean, I respect what they do, and I haven't listened to most of their material, but I mean, I found that talk very interesting, so I hope you will find it very interesting as well. And there's one kind of a hilarious surprise in the middle of interview at some point. I'm not gonna spoil it here, so if you check it out, you will be surprised what was going on there. That also created kind of a tiny little problem because it took like 2 hours or whatever when I went to the hotel with my camera person and back. And so suddenly I missed like 3 gigs during that time. Well, I can only blame more for myself, but then again, gigs come and go, but you get to do these kind of interviews like once in your lifetime. So I really can't blame. I had a blast there. So really nice. But now people are like, so you went to Steelchaos and you were like mentioning like only one band and all that stuff. Well, that's kind of a true. Well, on Saturday evening later on, I managed to get a glimpse on certain bands and some gigs full, and what I could basically raise on a pedestal would be Morgul. I had already heard so many stories, you know, kind of tiny bits of rumors, more like than stories about this band. You know, he being young but really passionate and you know full of energy, doing their black metal. And I gotta say, these guys didn't let me down. It was maybe a little bit of inexperience, kind of a nervousness, but also those guys, you know, they played so much, full of energy, and their melodic stuff, which almost is kind of like heavy metal, black metal hybrid, was really cool. And later on, I actually met the guys. They knew me, it seems, through this channel or whatever, and they handed me a their late vinyl EP for review. So that will be also reviewed soon. I think the next week or the one after that. So really cool. These guys came to me and said, "Hello, are you Rauta?" "Yeah, yes I am, blah blah blah." We had a good talk about their show and all that stuff, and then they got me this vinyl. So I was like, really, thank you. And that was really nice and aggressive show. Also, Impel Nazarene seemed to play very energetic, as they always are. And Primordial then again went more to this kind of atmospheric side. So different vibes, different sets of things going on with the bands there. So once again, I think Steelchaos delivered nicely. I'm more on the outdoor type, so maybe Steelfest versus Steelchaos being the, you know, same guys behind of these gigs. I think Steelfest is still my favorite of all these, but that's more have to do with the, you know, outdoors thing and the different vibe than Nosturi, which is the venue for Steelchaos. But all in all, a nice place and nice event. You should definitely visit if you get the chance. If by any chance you're coming to Finland, or if you're a resident of Finland and you are into extreme metal, there's no reason not to go to Steelchaos, in my opinion. And same applies to Steelfest as well. Next year the place will be different, though, if the rumors have me correct. So I don't know what will be going on. Will it be better or worse the next time? Of course, it's more about bands and all that stuff, not so much the venue. What can I say? Steelchaos 2018 was a success, except on my part, because I wanted to see more bands that are good. But then again, going to these kind of places is more about the general feeling. Also seeing your friends, having a beer too, and you know, then bands. I mean, I cannot really, you know, remove friends from this whole equation, nor the general atmosphere feeling. I mean, it's never like I go to just to see the bands only and that's that. It's the whole package deal, if you will. It's like a relationship. You don't go just for sex. You don't go just for you know, hugging on the couch or whatever. You get the whole deal. If you don't understand my metaphors, well, screw it. So, the bottom line is, would I recommend you to go to Steelchaos, Steelfest? Yes, I already said that, and I will just underline the fact. Do that. We have nice events in Finland. I think things are better nowadays than what they used to be during so many years before. Of course, we had Hammer Open Air and Black Flames of Blasphemy, which are then again very similar nature to Steelfest and Steelchaos, but still they're different vibes, different people organizing stuff. So all in all, things are in good position, good status, good ways, whatever you want to call it, in Finland. And I must say, we're really lucky to have this kind of stuff going on. So if you're planning to come to Finland from whatever you're living, try to aim so that you will land during Steelfest, Steelchaos, or maybe Turku Saatanalle. Those are wonderful extreme metal fests, which you don't want to miss. Just for the atmosphere, just for the bands, just everything is in place. Nothing is ever perfect in these kind of things. There are always bands that you don't want to see, and always bands you would like to see, but which are not present. So let's not get stuck with that. No lineup is perfect. But for example, if you take a look at Steelfest 2019 lineup, it's really awesome. Steelchaos 2018 lineup was good, but Steelfest 2019 is way better in my opinion. So definitely events you wanna take part of, at least if you are into black metal or even death metal in the first place. enough babbling, already 25 minutes. I don't know how the things go so fast. So, should you have questions, opinions, nasty remarks, just put them on the comment box below and I'll get back to you. Hopefully you get at least something out of this video, and if you don't, well, you can just mail me and get your money back. Just kidding, you don't pay me any money to do this stuff. Sorry for the bad humor. Let's have a cheers, and now I will head playing Red Dead Redemption 2. See you soon with more review videos and opinion videos and whatnot. Oh, and by the way, next Saturday's video should be Ask Me Anything type of AMA video. So if you have questions, please send them to me right away so I can get them answered for the next week's video. And if you don't have anything to ask, well, that's fine too. So take care, listen to some good metal, and have yourself a beer. Rauta out.